Well, congratulations on the series. I cannot tell you how hooked I am into these characters' complex worlds and the authentic connections they have with each other. This is such a grand exploration of very human behavior. Of course, there are actions that unfold between the characters or within that the audience may agree with, and then there are other times where they challenge your thinking as a viewer. How has this series, if I may ask, in all of what it explores, how has it challenged your thinking?
Well, thank you, first of all. Very well said and appreciated.
Of
I
course.
mean, I think what I love so much about the book and what I'm so proud of that was achieved with the show is how real it feels. And also, like you said, this is not like a judgment day exploration on like what it means to be young and make mistakes. This is really just kind
Yeah.
of like putting it out there and letting it hang there and hopefully starting a conversation about like, you know, with yourself or with your friends or because I feel like college and high school and I mean even late teens early 20s is just such a it's a time that's seared into your brain, and also like your actions then, whether we want to believe it or not, of course, like do follow you in some ways, whether literally or emotionally. And I just really love how real that was portrayed by our amazing actors, and how well it was written by Meaghan Oppenheimer, our amazing showrunner. Like I didn't feel like any of it was you know glamorized or for TV. Like I really felt the emotional weight of each character, which made me like I'm obsessed with this show and I'm a part of making it. Like, how is that possible?
Right, right. Anything to add, Kara?
I was just going to say, I mean, one of the things that I learned, I think, from making the show is just like how, when I was 18, I was like, I got it all figured out. And watching, like, it was like, it was like a little being John Malkovich, like watching this show get made. I was like, poor me. Like, I had such sympathy for myself. And I talked to Grace and Jackson about that a lot, where I'm like, because I'm a little older than them. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
you can't realize it. It's that thing of like life can only be lived forwards but understood backwards. And so like when you get to actually make a TV show about the year you went to college, it's a very trippy thing to
Yeah.
and I think it just gave me a lot of compassion for my 18-year-old self of like, I really did not have anything figured out at all. And I barely do now. So, you just kind of realize that it takes a lot of time to grow out of the things that haunt you and make you do the things you do. And so I hope for people who watch it at any age, it provides that kind of like catharsis and
Yeah.
nostalgia.
Very catharsis. That's the word I've been looking for all
Catharsis.
day. Catharsis. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're certainly very much all under construction throughout our
Yes,
entire
I like
lives.
that. I've never heard that.
I'm going to use that. I like
Yes.
his work in progress makes me cringe, but under construction feels right.
Yeah.
A lot of what we wrote about, we had to dig into our own pasts and our own experiences to make it as authentic as possible. So it's made me think a lot about decisions in my life and ways in which I've maybe allowed myself to be treated in relationships, and how much I want to avoid that ever in the future. And not, I don't only mean in romantic relationships, I mean in friendships as well. And
Right.
also the times when maybe because I wasn't in a great relationship, I was not the best friend. So if anything, it made me reflect back on my own experience. And I think a lot of the writers I had in the room would probably say the same thing. And just being less judgmental, because
Mm.
some of the characters do some pretty bad things, I would say.
Right.
You can't ever judge your characters. So
Yeah. So was it very open on set amongst the creative team and the talent involved in just kind of having these reflective moments, or did that principally happen early on in the writing room and to kind of figure all that out, and then you just kind of everyone focused on the work when it was happening during production?
it was a mix of both. So there wasn't really any overlap with the writing room. My writers all wrapped the room before we started production. So they didn't really, unfortunately, get to interact with the cast as much on set, except for one of my writers. There was one episode I was still writing while we were on set, but for the most part, we'd finished writing all of them. But then as you start filming and you start seeing how these characters are on screen, I would start to go back and change things in different scripts. So in that sense, the actors definitely did, contribute to changes we would make in the script. And I was having conversations with the cast constantly, even though I wasn't on set all the time, because I was also we were prepping episodes and editing episodes all at the same time and while we were shooting. So it was a lot, but I was constantly having conversations with the cast and getting calls from them every day just about different scenes and different feelings. And I tried to have all of those really open conversations with all of them from the beginning.
I mean, I think what's so amazing about Meaghan, and it comes through in her writing, especially in this show, is that well, first of all, this book was very true to her, and that's why she gravitated towards it. I think also like this period of time, the aughts, you know, pre-Instagram, like it's like the last time where we were it was the last time before this I share therefore I am world, right? And it was like, I think she being her exact age and all of us being true millennials, like we're able to really like mine experiences just like in conversation. But I think the writer's room was made up of people who really had those experiences too. And so even though there was a lot to mine in the book, I think just the sort of age of the writers and the experience of the writers, from what I understand, because I was not in the room, nor was Emma, but you know, it's very true. I think a lot of what happens on the show has probably happened in a certain way, not literally, but some of the, I know that some of the things that
some feelings,
the feelings
not exact situations,
and,
but I think a lot of feelings were felt by a lot of people collectively that made it into the show.
There's so many touches throughout this series that are very poetic. Like for one, probably one of my favorite ones, how the series begins. It begins with Lucy's heart racing from a dream involving what transpires between her and Stephen. But the cherry on top, and if I'm not mistaken, the great song Heartbeats plays during one of her first scenes with Jackson. And then that version's played by the band The Knife, but at the end or somewhere in episode 5 at a very big moment, it plays again, but it's by Jose Gonzalez. And so I'm curious about like these very cool poetic touches and like these moments that kind of serve the themes in such a way that you know, panic and fear that kind of permeate throughout the entire series. Like it's a full circle moment that song appears.
Yeah, I that's so cool that you noticed that. We have a few musical moments that are sort of where we bring things back that I was really excited to play around with. It was fun because I had 2 different editors for those episodes. And so one editor put that first version in the restaurant scene, and I loved it. And I was like, yeah, let's keep this in here. And then when we were looking for songs for the 5 scene, that was one of the ones that was suggested, and he didn't actually realize that it had been in the other episode already. But I thought it was so cool because there's such different versions of the song. One feels so much more fun, and it's the beginning of the relationship, and it's exciting, and it's new, and it's sexy. And the second one is quite heartbreaking. Yeah. And I loved how different the same song could feel. And it was just a fun way to kind of illustrate the journey that the characters were going on.